That's what you're supposed to do. Now, there's a very exciting bit of news to reveal, and that is that a London teacher has been named as a top 10 finalist in the Global Teacher Awards. Jamie Frost beat off competition from 10,000 nominees and was praised for his work in helping pupils continue their schoolwork through lockdown. Mr. Frost is a maths teacher from Tiffin School in Kingston upon Thames. Joins me on the programme this morning. Congratulations, Mr. Frost.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you for having me on air.
How exceptionally exciting. How does it feel to be in the top 10 of a global competition?
I'm just completely thrilled. I didn't expect to get this far, and I'll be even more thrilled if I win the million, but I'm quite content to get this far.
That would be very nice indeed. So do you know who nominated you? And without being too modest, will you tell us why you were nominated?
So it was actually a teacher I'd never even met or had any contact with, and it was someone who was using my platform at school, and she just emailed me out of the blue and said, "Oh, you should consider this award." And I thought, well, actually, $1 million of funding for my site would be amazing. So so I applied, basically.
Yes, and tell me about what you have been doing in lockdown, because we've heard a variety of different things from parents and students on the programme. We've heard about parents and students who never heard from teachers again and felt absolutely forlorn and forsaken, and the kids were just staring at YouTube all day. Then we heard of others who kept the kids Zooming almost from morning till night. They were busily at lessons and goodness knows what. What did you do to keep maths interesting and keep your pupils engaged during lockdown?
So a variety of strategies, and I think it's why technology is so important in education, as we've seen with the lockdown. And so, for example, at my school, we've been using like Google Classroom to set our work and such. We still try and do live lessons when we can. So I've been using my slides and annotating over them. But I've also been using my platform an awful lot because it's kind of quite designed for the lockdown. So, for example, I could set questions to students online, and they can answer them, get instant feedback, and I could see their answers live come in. I was being able to do games with them. There's a sort of virtual whiteboard I developed where I can project exam questions to them, and they can answer them, and I can see all their whiteboards on my screen and such. So it's just kind of employing a variety of technologies when we don't obviously have that face-to-face interaction with the students.
And now are you back at the helm in the classroom?
Yeah, and to be honest, even though I've coped as best I can, there's absolutely no substitute for being in front of the class and having that actual face-to-face interaction with the students.
And how are you finding it being back in the classroom? Are you finding, for example, that the pupils have, that the standards have unfortunately dropped during lockdown, or that some have kept to the grindstone and some haven't? I mean, what is it like?
I think because the provision by my school was so good during the lockdown, they're a bit rustier than usual, but I feel like the students at my school have been quite fortunate that they have Chromebooks which they can use at home, and so we've been able to do our sort of teaching through that. But I think it's just the kind of practical logistics of having to move around everywhere and distance and sort of staggered lunch times and start times and stuff. And it's hard for the teachers as well. But just being back in school and being able to teach in a kind of more normal way is just brilliant, to be honest.
And what about, I mean, I'm reluctant to talk to you about this, but I can't help it. What about pupils not being very well, going home, having a cold, having a cough, having to be kept off school because they can't get a test to see whether they're COVID positive or not?
Yeah, and I get a lot of emails from students saying, oh, someone in my family's been ill and we're having to have a test. And so we try to sort of send home work to them and cope, because obviously attendance isn't as high as it usually would be. So we're trying to cope as best as that we can. But it's always very frustrating for students if they have to be off for a week or 2 weeks, not just if they're unwell, but just someone in their family is unwell.
And what happens with this competition? And if people have just turned on the radio, I'll just explain you're Jamie Frost, or Mr. Frost to your pupils, a maths teacher from Tiffin School in Kingston upon Thames, and you've been named as a top 10 finalist in the Global Teacher Awards. It's a really big deal. Is it all virtual this year, though? And what happens next? When will you find out how successful you've been?
I believe the final, the winner is announced on December the 3rd, and it's a virtual ceremony, but being filmed at the Natural History Museum, and it's Stephen Fry, I believe, will be presenting it.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, fabulous. So will you be watching Stephen Fry from home, or because you're in London, will you be able to trot along and go?
I don't actually know. I think they're still working out the final logistics for that.
All right. And one final question for you. What was it that led to your becoming a teacher in the first place?
Well, when I was at university in my PhD, I did a lot of undergraduate teaching, and I was looking after these Princeton undergraduates, for example, when teaching machine learning class in the department. And I particularly like these sort of visiting American students, and they especially invited me to this sort of leavers dinner with the master of the college, and they were asked, like, what was their favourite memory of Oxford, and one of them said, my tutorials with Dr. Frost, and I thought that was so lovely. So I ended up contacting my old school and seeing if I could do some teaching there, and they said, yes, come along. And it went from there, really, and I've been a teacher ever since.
Will you forgive me for calling you Mr. Frost and not Dr. Frost?
I'm so it's fine.
sorry.
I wasn't correcting you.
I'm terribly sorry. And Dr. Frost, thank you very much indeed. We hope you absolutely slam it in the competition. We hope you get that £1 million. We hope you get it for the Tiffin School. And thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is fabulous. It's lovely. It's emanating and seeping through the radio. Dr. Jamie Frost there, a London teacher named as a top 10 finalist in the Global Teacher Awards.